The following lore, included in Lost Notes Groupies, is based on personal histories of sex, drugs, and rock and roll from the previous century. Any stories, as told to us, belong solely to the speakers and their memories. Previously on Groupies.
The whiskey wasn't considered a real job to my family. It was a hobby. And they just let me go, thinking, she's going to crash and burn, it's coming.
Those kind of guys are always looking for someone new. Like, hey, do you have any cute girlfriends you want to bring up to, I wanted to meet these guys. I wanted to be in those circles. I wanted to go to the parties.
Going to Hollywood meant getting away from all the realities and just having whatever adventure lay in front of me for that evening. I never knew. It was exciting.
Okay, this is the archive of Star magazine from 1973, and we are looking at a PDF because all of those dudes who fetishize glam rock teens and 70s culture have bought all of the physical copies on eBay for hundreds of dollars because they are collectors. We know this type of person.
Freaks, total freaks.
Yeah, Joe has never dated anyone like that.
I was hanging out with my two best friends a little while ago. They're named Olivia and Joe, and we were catching up, and I was telling them about this show that I've been working on, that you are now listening to. And at some point, I was just like, if you really want to get a glimpse of the Sunset Strip scene from the pill to the dawn of punk, I have to show you this one long out of print magazine called Star.
Here's some of the peak, styling that they were doing at Star, in addition to full spreads on the raspberries and 3 Dog Night. Holy shit.
Ooh, that's a cool...
Only 5 issues were ever published in 1973, but online there's a PDF archive of every issue at star1973.com, where each page is scanned in high res in all its full 70s glory. The Star archive became a very special artifact of niche 70s teen girl ephemera that was circulating around Tumblr, I guess, over a decade ago, which is when I first saw it. And I never, ever forgot about it. Star, though it is barely remembered today, was a magazine unlike any other.
Ooh, that's a cool illustration.
They had a lot of, it's really all over the place. Astrology, and an advice question of what to do astrologically when your boyfriend and best friend get together.
Or when you have a freaky experience. Or wild dancing.
It began in 1971 as a typical teenage fan mag with full-color pinups of pop idols like David Cassidy and Donny Osmond. But a year later, it hit puberty, basically. It transformed into a fan magazine for girls, about girls. Cool girls. Young adults. Star girls, as they were photographed and packaged in these pages, were teenaged, sexy, fashionable, in charge, and really into glam rock. It was a mix of ridiculous and empowering. It was both of its time and ahead of its time. And it changed some girls' lives. At least one girl in particular. Lori Lightning.
Yeah, it was cool. Yeah, it was definitely cool. I mean, I thought it was cool. I don't think a lot of parents thought it was cool. I don't know. I'm not sure. I was like, whoa, what is that? I mean, but a lot of it was fake. Sable was real. She was the only one that was really real. She was the real groupie. I was brought in from junior high and thrown into the scene with Sable and Len. It started at Star Magazine. From that magazine, I was photographed, thrown into the disco, thrown into the whiskey, the rainbow, all of that. That's when I hit the strip. And then it just evolved from there. So, I mean, you get brought in when you get brought in. It happens when it happens,
From KCRW and Golden Teapot, this is Lost Notes Groupies. And I'm Dylan Tupper Rupert. This season, I'm taking you into the world of the legendary groupies of the Sunset Strip, from the pill to the dawn of punk. This episode is the story of Star Magazine, 1973 to 1973. Ever since I first saw this archive of Star issues, I was like, was this a liberating celebration of the teenage groupie lifestyle? Or was it just a scandalizing fossil from the 70s? The articles in each issue of Star are truly all over the place. But who are the real people who wrote them? I mean, you look at these bylines and you're like, are these even real people?
This article was written by Carol Pickle.
Pickle.
We were like, Carol Pickle's not a real person.
You're going to laugh. Carol Pickle was a real person. She worked with me for, throughout the whole length of the publication.
That's real person Nancy Hardwick, who became a Star magazine editor as her first job out of college. To be clear, it's Pickel, not L-E, and though Carol Pickle was an actual human being, Nancy told me that a good portion of the bylines were actually made up. It was a small staff.
One of the reasons we use different pen names is because nobody wanted to see the same byline over and over again. In one issue, I was Misty Meadows. Another one, I was Annie Tipton. I think another one, I was Sunny Ray.
In our quest to investigate the deeper mysteries of Star magazine, we tracked down Nancy Hardwick, custodian of Star lore. Back in 1971, Nancy was a recent USC journalism grad, fresh on the job hunt.
Peterson Publishing was one of the better-known publishing houses in Los Angeles. It's an extremely successful company.
Magazine magnate Robert Peterson started Hot Rod magazine in 1948. On the back of its success, he built a publishing empire through titles like Motor Trend, Car and Driver, Hunting, and Guns and Ammo. You know the Peterson Automotive Museum on Wilshire? We're talking that Peterson. So, of course, sports cars, shotguns, what would be the next best natural market to corner than prepubescent teenage girl entertainment? This sounds like a fake Warren Zevon song. Sports cars, shotguns, teenagers. Anyway.
So I went up to Peterson's employment, human resources office, and said, hey, here I am. Here's my resume. I've done a little writing. Let me know what you have coming up. And they said, well, by the way, we're starting a brand new publication. We're looking for some young staff. And the publication was called Teen Star. It was a fan magazine, and it was geared to girls 12 to 13 years old.
Nancy's boss was a guy named Don Berrigan. Despite the fact that Don had never run a magazine or even worked as an editor, he had a more valuable credential: connections.
Don was probably, early 30s, but he spent a number of years working with record companies and publicity. He was also road manager for the Monkees. I mean, he worked for them, the radio stations and promotions. He had a real solid background in working in the Hollywood publicity scene.
So while Don may have had the likes of Leif Garrett and Tito Jackson on speed dial, in the early 70s, the preteen celebrity market was oversaturated. For Peterson to really crack the demo, they'd have to offer something unique.
The concept was a foxy new publication aimed at primarily 15-year-olds.
Their bosses at Peterson Publishing said, go for it. And that was Star Magazine. No relation to the grocery store tabloid you see today, but something very different. Just to give you a little glimpse here of how Star Magazine introduced itself to its readership. In issue 1, on the first page, inside the cover, there's a full bleed photo. It's of a teenage girl. She's white, wearing a boho blouse and a denim miniskirt, turquoise bangles. She's out in a field. She's grinning with confidence. It frankly looks like the senior photo of the cool girl from class of 72. The girl who cut class to smoke joints behind the bleachers. And the text below her reads, it's a poem, and I will perform it as such. The girl who reads Star. Her head is together. Her heart is warm, but forever free. She knows her power. She will never give up on her dream. The girl who reads Star is someone just like you.
Honestly, she does seem exactly like me. I would wear this.
This actually,
she is kind of your vibe. Yeah.
This does look a lot like you.
Now, the new Star was entertainment. It was provocative and seductive. It pushed the envelope. Star was really the little West Coast sister of Cosmo, and it shattered the norms of old school teen magazines, which focused on beauty tips and grooming and how to be popular with your girlfriends.
There were articles like, "Should you be satisfied with just one guy?" and a guide to asking yourself, "Are you being used?" There were interviews with stars like Diana Ross, and a report from Alice Cooper's European tour, and a very entertaining taxonomy of Mick Jagger's many fabulous girlfriends. It was teenage girl snarky, kind of like if Cream magazine of the 70s had the editorial ideals of Sassy magazine in the 90s. Incredible fact, Sassy was also published by, you guessed it, Peterson Publishing.
We had a lot of advice stories, but focused on how you can come out on top. Whether you're in a relationship with a boy or confronting the other girls at school or dealing with your parents, how to be yourself, be true to yourself, but be more assertive. How to have more confidence in yourself and your decisions. I mean, it's all kind of couched in this kind of fun atmosphere and lots of entertainment in the pages. But at the core, it was really about having more respect for yourself, more confidence in yourself.
Nancy lost touch with her boss, Don Berrigan, after Star folded. And last she heard, he had left LA in the late 70s and had been directing live-action biblical plays in the Deep South. He is 90 years old now, and he was incredibly game to reminisce about that time 50 years ago when he was a magazine editor in Hollywood, launching a brand new title for teenage girls. We were able to reach Don by phone, as it sounds like.
I believed in my heart that I was doing good for these little girls. And I wanted to keep doing it as long as I could, Same as I did for my daughter. My motto was Star Magazine, bad but not evil.
Star Magazine, bad but not evil.
Yeah, that's cute. He's describing his daughter.
Desi Berrigan went to Hollywood High. She'd bring her girlfriends around the Star office after school, and they were like a free built-in focus group for the editorial staff, giving feedback on layouts, articles, clothes pulled for photo shoots.
They were adventurous and not afraid of being scolded. Those are our little role models.
Desi was Don's primary source for many of the articles he would write for Star under varying pen names. Well, with the exception of the 4-page first-person tell-all, nose job diary, minute by minute, all the gory details.
No, I wrote that.
That one Don wrote himself under the pseudonym Susan Helm, which he reported by calling up a plastic surgeon for the play-by-play. While Don may have lacked editorial experience, he knew how to sell magazines.
He knew what would get people talking, and sometimes in kind of a negative way they would be talking, but that didn't bother him. It was just you were paying attention. You were paying attention to the magazine.
Star magazine hit newsstands in January of 1973. This soon-to-be Bible of 70s cool girls was shelved with the music magazines, alongside Rolling Stone and Cream, instead of, Tiger Beat, or 16, or 17. Immediately, it stood out, partly because of the staff that Don had recruited to work on the magazine.
We had such an array of talented people. Illustrator Joe Patagno, he was responsible for doing our little groupies comic strip every month and our centerfold posters. And, of course, Lori, who was, I would call her fearless and always on a mission.
Not Lori Lightning, a different Lori. Lori Barth, an intrepid young writer who covered the Sunset Strip teen beat.
Lori had assignments every day to help get the clothes we need for the photo shoots or track down some interviews. And then we had these photographers it was such a coup to get them. Henry Diltz, he's legendary. He did a lot of our photography. Jean Pagliuso, she's went on to become a well-known celebrity photographer, and she did all our covers. She's just amazing. She worked with stylist Christine St. Ric. The two of them came up with these beautiful covers, these adorable girls in these outrageous costumes.
The photos in Star were provocative, and intentionally so. Dawn's goal was to push buttons and get attention, and it worked.
The girls that were on the cover were Lolita-esque. In fact, I've got a book of clippings of newspaper articles that were written about Star magazine. I've got stories from the Philadelphia Inquirer, the Washington Post, the Chicago Sun-Times. All these big Eastern publications were enthralled with Star. They didn't know what it was, how it came about, where it was going, but they would describe the models or the cover girls as Lolita-esque.
Actually, what the Chicago Sun-Times wrote was, "She looks like what we used to quaintly call, in my joyously unliberated Ohio teenage days, a slut." They were real girls who were recruited right off of the Sunset Strip.
Yes, some of the girls we found, believe it or not, in modeling agencies, but not many, maybe one or so. Some we just found at the local high school. Some our photographers recommend. They knew them from other modeling assignments. The only talent that we used was local, in LA and Hollywood. I think we just curious, who's out there.
The thing about Star girls is that they didn't look, at least to me, like little baby dolls dressed up to look like adults, or industry kid models forced to pose. Something about their proto-disco overuse of lame and sequins, their crop tops, their teased-out hair, the glamorous party snaps next to glam rock gods. I mean, it really made the Sunset Strip look like it was ruled by high school girls. This was the era, and the magazine, in which to be a star of the scene, there was no better age to be than 15. And Star magazine had coined a term for this type of girl.
What is a foxy lady?
That's a fantastic question, Olivia. A foxy lady is a woman who is too old for Tiger Beat, but too young for Cosmo. And she is she's like the empowered young girl in the 70s who like uses men. Like, there's all these advice. I want to find a page that's advice that's like, how to get your guy to like pay for your dinner and stuff. But they're talking about high school boys.
In 1973, it was just the premise, the mere suggestion of a teen girl being encouraged to have some agency that caused an uproar.
It absolutely was about self-empowerment. And to realize that you are as good, if not better, than any boy in your high school. And that it's time you got the respect and consideration that you deserve.
Look, no one, and certainly not me, claimed that Star was like a radical feminist manifesto for the groupie set. But it had an angle, and it was subversive in its time.
We got letters, serious letters from people all over the country who were not happy about what we were doing. That we were, trying to teach girls to be more sassy and break the rules and be confrontational.
Here's some historical context, because sometimes it's easy to forget. In 73, women still couldn't legally get credit cards of their own for another year. It was only the year before when the Supreme Court ruled that unmarried women had the same right to birth control as married ones. It's in this America that the concept of teen girls having a mind of their own was novel. The angry parents who wrote their angry letters to Dawn and Nancy thought it was irresponsible for Star to publish articles that encouraged girls to be independent. Maybe that was because the magazine did so not through lofty ideals, so much as through actions that a teenager could actually reasonably take, like how to make your own cash by starting a dog walking business, or how to build your own foxy wardrobe from thrifted clothes. It sounds so paltry, but it was little clues of freedom and agency that Starr was seeding. Amongst some other stuff. Because, let's be real, what was appealing, aesthetically, culturally, to the readership of Starr was that it was a little edgy, a little flashy, maybe even a little trashy. It talked openly about sex. It was explicit about money. It was a little good, but not moral, and a little bad, but not evil.
The actual girls who read this publication were out in Middletown, Ohio. And their parents expected them to go to church every Sunday. And the local events might have been, a local movie theater and an ice cream social. And so this magazine, it was kind of a voyeur view of another lifestyle. That's a lot more exciting than what's happening to me in Ohio here. The girls who read it were young teenage girls waiting for their life to start.
As much as Starr was ahead of its time when it came to teen girl empowerment, in other ways, it was very much of its time. Some of it hasn't aged nearly as well.
There's an article about, this one's awful, it's about Raquel Welch, the actress, and they were like comparing her bikini. It's like, obviously she looks a lot better now that she lost a lot of weight. Yeah.
Gross.
But tale as old as time.
Yeah.
That's certainly not unique to Star Magazine.
No. They
This
just didn't try
one-
to hide it. Oh, wow.
Yeah, there's a couple articles that are like, black girls are cool too, guys.
Oh, wow.
And
Yikes.
this one is about when a foxy black girl comes for your man and how advanced and cool and adult and sophisticated she is. Her name is Miss Soul, by the way. And yeah.
Eddie Puss?
Eddie Puss. It's
I get
It's representative of its era and most of its shortcomings, especially around its extremely off-putting fetishization of race and its often pretty superficial assessment of what it means to be a girl who is bold and empowered. There are articles about how to fight, physically, with a girl who's trying to steal your boyfriend, and a list of 5 foxy power plays to win over a guy and beat out the competition. And then there's that nose job diary. It was a real mixed bag. Still, Nancy maintains, despite any editorial missteps that to us now seem to pretty obviously contradict claims to being empowering or whatnot, that the encouragement to at least embolden their readership was intentional.
So there was a lot of substance in the pages of Starr. Now, like I say, it scared some adults. It scared some of the people at Peterson.
Star Magazine lasted for only 5 glorious issues before Peterson Publishing shut that shit down. Star's 5th and final issue has gone down in infamy for its feature on Sunset Strip groupies. If you've seen famous pictures of Laurie Maddox and Sable Starr partying on the strip, some of these pictures might be familiar to you. But groupies weren't the only powerful girls glamorized in these pages. Issue 5 comes in hot with a cover photo of gold medalist for the Soviet Union in the 1972 Olympic Games, the legendary Belarusian gymnast Olga Korbut, for some reason.
It's a good cover.
Olga Korbut was an Olympic winning gymnast, but then they give her a Foxy makeover.
Foxy. I think I understand the meaning of Foxy now.
Yeah, she went Foxy. And then Cat Stevens.
Issue 5 starts off like all the others, with the full-page photo and the ode, the poem, to the theoretical star girl, who is a girl just like you. This one really jumps out, though.
I'm so confused.
I, too, am confused. I don't
Oh,
understand.
I-
She's...
We're looking at Frankenstein.
We're looking at Frankenstein.
cuddling a cherub-like angel groupie baby. It's terrifying.
Once I took Lori Barth and one of the Star Girls to Universal to meet the Frankenstein monster.
Once again, Don Berrigan from his rotary phone. JK. But he's saying that he took staff writer Lori Barth and one of the models scouted from the strip, Karen Umphrey, to Universal Studios and photographed her with Frankenstein's monster.
The girl who reads Star, she picks her friends herself for what they are inside. No one tells her who to like and never who to love. I'm assuming this has something to do with her being intimate with Frankenstein.
Loving a monster.
That will prepare you for a future in glam rock.
This final issue, more so than the previous 4, leaned most explicitly into its connection to the teenage groupie scene in Hollywood. It's really the Sunset Strip Groupies feature with the Q&A with Sable and Queenie that has come to define the whole magazine's legacy. During our wormhole into the Star story, I learned that it wasn't exactly the Sunset Strip groupie Bible like I always thought. But what it was a launching pad for some of these groupies. See, Lori Lightning, she was only in this final issue, and yet both Lori and the magazine kind of made each other famous.
And then the infamous Sunset Strip Groupies article, who, what, when, and how. Wow. Okay, here we go.
Ooh, I've seen these photos before. That's cool.
These are fucking classic photos. That's Lori Lightning. And let's see. That's Rodney. There's Alice Cooper.
Mark Bolan. Lori.
Lori is like 14 in this picture. Okay, this.
I'm just looking at the layout now. Yes, I guess this is the article that's going to live in infamy. I mean, good for that. It was quite the story. There they all are. It wasn't something that we cooked up and said, "Oh, we're going to do a expose on the Sunset Strip groupies." It all kind of just sort of fell into place, and Rodney kind of kicked this off. It was a great publicity for him, of course. Come down, take some pictures at my club. I think we got his club in there somewhere, one or two of the pictures. And so probably Sable, she was pretty kind of an organizer, probably got the girls together. Here's a couple of girls who said they want to join you, and they're going to go out and do a little trip, down on the strip. And Richard, the photographer, will just follow you along. And then afterwards, let's see, one of our writers got them to come to the office, sit down, and do some interviews, about their weekend. And we, I suppose we caught it as a snapshot in time of what's going on here in Hollywood.
Rodney wasn't just doing PR for his club with the rock and roll audience. He was going after the teen girl set, too. He advertised the fact that these young, beautiful groupie girls could be found there. You could come and be one of them. Or be with one of them.
Rodney was pretty influential then. And he knew all the young musicians. And the girls were attracted. Some of these girls were attracted just hanging out in his little crowd. And that's how it went.
Rodney's plan, it worked pretty well. This star photo shoot of Lori Lightning, Sable Star, and Queenie Glam, in miniskirts and platforms and sheer scarves tied around as halter tops, bouncing off the mirrored walls of the English disco dance floor, it made both Rodney's and the baby groupies infamous.
This Q&A is insane. It's with Sable Star and Queenie Glam. And Sable Star is basically in the article like, oh, this is one of my favorite quotes, where Carol Pickle herself asks Sable Star, who is like one of the most famous groupies of all time, who's about 15. She goes, "Sable, could you give me some tips on how to become a groupie?" And she says, "Sure, if you're the aggressive type, the flashy type, you make it. You have to be very flashy, sometimes even sleazy looking, in a way sort of cheap looking. You just have to be noticed, because you can't just stand in the crowd hoping that one of the guys in the band will notice you. If you want to be a groupie, you should hang around by their limousines or you hang around backstage or at the hotel. I usually know where the band's staying. I know where their hotel room is because I've got connections, got big ears too. Most groups stay at the Hyatt House, sometimes Beverly Hills Hotel, blah, blah, blah." And then she just kind of She just goes off. Where's the quote where she's like, everyone else is ugly? Let's see. Oh, this is good. Is there any rivalry or jealousy between the groupies? Well, there are only about 20 really good ones, and I'd have to say I'm about the best. There she is.
Know your value, girl.
Yeah. There she is.
Wow. A lot to unpack there.
Sable and Queenie are interviewed specifically about their groupie exploits in no uncertain terms. They're ruthless. Sable Star, as she's represented in her 15-year-old glory in this unbridled Q&A about the techniques of her game, is like the go-get-em, do-what-you-want ethos of Star gone nuclear. Sable's testament on how to make it as a teen girl in the music scene was, well, pretty cynical. But Sable was experienced by that point. She knew how things operated. And she was an infamous groupie because she was a successful one. And she was successful because she was infamous. The men in bands were star-fucking her, too, because in this sleazy world of status, Sable was a prize. It's hard to say if Sable Star, in her years in the groupie gang, ever felt like the rock and roll world ever saw her, or if that's what she wanted from it. But she certainly was witnessed for getting what she wanted and doing what it took to get it. And here in the pages of Star was her outline, her formula of how she did so. And her frankness here in the pages of Star may as well have spelled its demise.
Well, this was our last issue that was published. That might tell you something. I guess we went out with a bang. You might as well call it. Let's just call it that. Yeah, our last issue was really a showstopper. It really had some great articles. We had some beautiful photos, interviews with James Taylor, Carly Simon, a great interview with them. Oh, it was our David Bowie issue also. Now that one was fun.
Okay.
Hey, buddy.
So David Bowie didn't fly. He only flew across the pond. He took a train from Chicago to Hollywood. And then this Star writer and Star cover girl, Patty Clark, picked him up at the train station. And it says in this article that David Bowie hugged Patty Clark and whispered into her ear that he loved the magazine. And oh God, I can't tell you the rest. So David Bowie loved Star magazine. I also love, do you know about Cherry Vanilla?
No.
Do you remember her? She was his publicist, and she was like one of like the main like downtown New York scene groupies.
Cherry Vanilla was New York's queen bee rock and roll girl. But the whole groupie thing was different in the New York scene. She was a factory girl. She was an actress in Warhol movies. She was David Bowie's publicist. She was a poet.
Cherry Vanilla's in the middle of talking about how she quit being a groupie to sort of like work in the industry, and then it's like cuts her off because there's a flurry of activity, and then Laurie Maddox comes out, and apparently she's been in the room with David Bowie upstairs. And what does David Bowie think of the groupie scene, Laurie Maddox? Oh, he loves it. He has to have a million girls hanging around him all the time. He likes groupies because they have what it takes to get him. The looser, the better.
So that was a really good story. So that issue was really it knocked it out of the park, I think. We had great stories, great photos, great interviews, and of course, the Sunset Strip groupies. So it was a good way to go out, I suppose.
Rest in peace, Star magazine, January to June, 1973. As you might have expected, even in the 70s, which was a different time or whatever, an article in a mass-market teen magazine about underage groupies in the music scene, implying in no uncertain terms that they were sleeping with famous rock stars twice their age, it caused a stir.
Right after this issue came out, and we were working on the next one. In fact, I've got a proof copy of the last issue that was never published, and Peterson literally locked the doors and gave us notice. We all came into work one morning, the doors are locked. And we had to get security to open the doors so we can get our personal items. And then we all got official letters handed out that our employment was terminated.
The Petersons of Peterson Publishing were a deeply religious family. Some speculation points to their probable discovery of what the hell was going on in what they probably assumed was just another innocuous teen magazine. No one really knows for sure.
Don was just as shocked. Afterward, I'm not quite sure what the official story was. I'm sure the official story was probably, you guys aren't bringing any revenue into this company. I'm sure that's probably was the official story. And that's all they need. Any business is all you need to say. That's enough to, shut the door.
And that's showbiz. Is it not? Baby?
Star was never conceived or produced to be a groupie magazine. It wasn't. It kind of surprised me when I heard that later, that people said, oh, it's a groupie magazine. I go, well, we did one nice story, one major story about a groupie event down on the Sunset Strip. But we were not advocating groupieism. We were covering the scene in that particular issue. But Star was much more than that. The groupie scene was a very small part of one issue, one magazine. Now, it's fun to be remembered as that. Oh, the groupie magazine. Oh, that's fun because there's not too many other publications out there that can have that claim to fame. But we were so much more.
So maybe Star Magazine wasn't a crystal ball into the true meaning of groupiedom. Maybe it wasn't that deep. But it is a relic that complicates and clarifies what it was like to be a teen girl in the 70s. They were gaining more self-awareness around their social capital and how to exercise it, but the laissez-faire parenting of the era meant that guardrails weren't really a thing. A 14-year-old could be a famous rock star's girlfriend. She could go out there and get what she wanted. But she also still needed advice on how to be thrifty with her allowance. That kind of stuff.
We were more about the development of young women and finding their place with self-confidence and assurance. I mean, I think that's what we were really, really working to do. And I think we achieved it because it's all the young girls who would come in and go through the magazine, would tell us how much they like this, how much they like that. And the letters we got, I mean, a lot of affirming letters from girls. So we were much more than the groupie scene.
Next time on Lost Notes, the sleazy pinnacle of the strip in the 70s. Oh yeah, no, you thought this was it? It gets sleazier.
It was a playground for girls, and people were just attracted to come up there. And I think the girls were getting younger and younger.
Because Led Zeppelin comes to town.
They were not well behaved. There was danger afoot, and you knew that things weren't going to be the same. Girls knew.
From KCRW and Golden Teapot, this is Lost Notes Groupies, Women of the Sunset Strip from the Pill to Punk. This season was created, written, and executive produced by Jessica Hopper and me, your host, Dylan Tupper Rupert. Executive producers from KCRW are Gina Delvac and Arnie Seipel. The executive producer for Golden Teapot is Lauren Redding. Our senior producer is Michael Catano. Our supervising producer is Alexandra Nelson. Our research producer is Jessica Calvanico. Sound design and mix is by Michael Hardman. Score and original music is from Carmen L. Special thanks to Natalie Hill, Megan Ellingbo, and Jennifer Farrow. For episode 5, special thanks to Ryan Richardson for the Star1973.com archive and Lori Barth.